Good.
All right, we good?
You're good.
All right, let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. Let's start with our Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Big crowd in here today. So we'll go ahead and entertain a motion for the approval of minutes. Everybody get a chance to look over them.
There's Alan.
Well, I've had a chance to review them and I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion of approval by the Honorable Jay Dudley.
The Honorable.
Honorable.
Someone second?
Need somebody second.
I can't second. I can't second because I'm not officially a member of the board, so.
You can second it. All right. So next on here, we have our EMS performance metrics, which I think I'm still capturing what everybody wants to see, and like any other meeting, if somebody wants to see something different, I'm happy to get something different. I think that was emailed out to everyone, so you should be able to see. But basically, our TSE metrics, the state has a requirement for what we need to be hitting. And if you look at our first set, the cardiac, we're supposed to be less than 10 minutes on our patient contact to 12 lead time. So basically, from the time that the provider walks through the door and sees the patient to the time they have the 12 leads in hand, should be less than 10 minutes. So we're hitting for the entire, and let me back up a minute. These are 2020 metrics. So for the entire, I just went ahead and did them for the entire year so we could see a snapshot of the year. So for the entire year, we hit 612, which is well below the 10-minute state requirement.
And that makes me very happy.
I figured you'd be happy about that one.
Yeah.
And then our scene times, and these are for our STEMI patients, should be less than 20 minutes, and it's 17 minutes and 23 seconds. So we captured that one. Trauma, same thing. I just captured our scene time, which we want to be less than 20 minutes, and we're at 16 minutes. And that was an average for, like I say, the whole year. And then our stroke scene times should be less than 20, and we're at less than 15. We're at 14 minutes. So pretty happy to see those numbers there.
I think those are great times.
Thanks, Marion. Yeah, like I say, anytime I run these numbers, I'm always a little leery that I'm going to come up with something that's not good, but so far so good. And then we've got operational metrics and clinical. I got those mixed up. Clinical times and operational metrics. So the next set should be clinical times, and those are shoot times, which is that time that it takes for the provider to go once the call comes in, to get in the ambulance and respond. And we want those less than 2 minutes, and we're hitting a minute 26. And then response times this is anywhere in the BCMS area, is 10 minutes and 1 second, which those are kind of variable because those can be kind of all over the place. Because we have speaking of long response time, Gil just walked in. So we've got some long response times in certain areas of the county. And then the other one is our scene times, and this is just standard scene times, are 17 minutes and 19 seconds. And so that hits at less than 20 minutes, which is where we want to be. And then we've got our IV success rates, which is 77%, and our advanced airway first pass success, which is 80%. And those numbers might not mean a lot to general public, but for those of us that pay attention to these, those are definitely numbers that we don't want to see going forward. So that's our 2020 metrics for Bonner County EMS. Anybody got any questions on any of that before I move on to our new business?
No, I think it's great. You guys are continuing to maintain solid times well below, and I think that's a testament to your management, the team you put together.
Thanks, Commissioner.
And I'm also very pleased with these times. I think they're all both acceptable and excellent. So congratulations.
Thank you, sir. All right, new business. So Station 5 response area improvements. I've had some recent talks with the folks over at, so back up a little bit, we've been talking about putting something down in the Blanchard area for quite some time to help with our paramedic response unit. I have to be careful because if I say paramedic emergency response vehicle, that says PERV. So I can't say paramedic emergency response vehicle. So we'll just say paramedic quick response vehicle. But we're trying to get that over in the Blanchard area for now. And we've been kind of looking at where to put this at. And we were approached by some folks over at what's the place?
Stone Ridge.
Yes. Who seemed interested in maybe helping us procure some land and or donate some land and potentially put that medic over in that corridor over there, which I think would be a really
Well, and Chief, we've got a couple other irons in the fire with regards to that as well. We've got some property over there that we're
Right.
looking at, the county owns, but I'm also going to have a conversation with the owner of the golf course over there because he's been a interested participant in trying to build that community. And I'm going to approach him and pitch an idea of him building a building for us and maybe leasing it to us in that general area because he owns quite a bit of property over there. So we've got a few options that we can weigh when it comes right down to it.
And I think talking about what Commissioner was talking about, I think the idea of the Stone Ridge, or I guess the golf course, that sounds interesting to me because of the fact that if we could get somebody to actually build a facility or at least donate land or something like that, which would save the taxpayer money, I'm all for. So anyway, we are looking at that area. As stated, we're looking at trying to get that vehicle over in that area to help out with the very long response times over there.
Yeah, with the increased population and the increased number of calls over there, originally we weren't thinking we were going to be looking at a station over there for another few years, but I think this is something that's kind of bubbled to the top and needs to take some priority. The relocation of Station 1 will be the highest priority, but this will be right there. And when I get back, I'll be back in the office Monday, so I'll start doing some legwork on different property options and options for that facility.
Okay.
Tell me about the growth in that area and the potential growth in that area. What's expected?
Well, I don't have actual numbers in front of me. I'm not in the office, but one of the things I do is I track the building location permits that are coming in, and we're getting a lot of new folks moving in. We're seeing a lot of subdivision, 5-acre subdivisions out there. People are taking, 100, 200-acre parcels and breaking them into fives. And so we're seeing some real development, but we're also seeing call volumes increase more so over what we were doing in that area, and a lot more dramatically than we had originally anticipated. The chief and I had talked about this a few years ago, that'll be our next place for a little one-holer like we just put in on Kootenai Cutoff. And again, we were envisioning, maybe 2, 3, 4 years, but now I think this is going to be one of the items that we're going to start looking more seriously at doing. And that's one of the things that makes it attractive, the lease option, is that it's something that we don't necessarily have to budget for other than the cost for the monthly lease. Someone else will absorb the construction costs and probably be able to make it happen quicker than us trying to budget for it. But regardless, I think EMS is doing really well financially. And if we needed to, we could go ahead and consider either a couple of options. One, either funding it right out of reserves, or two, trying to roll it into the loan that we're going to go after for the new Station 1 and the associated office space that we're going to put right across the street from the county building. So we've got a few things working here and some balls in the air, but I think, at least in my opinion, I think this is going to have to bubble to the top of being a higher priority, because it is a long haul for a paramedic from Priest River down to the Blanchard area. And most of that population is right near the county line, so the Kootenai County line. So we've got to be able to service that. And again, like I said, we also have a couple of pieces of property there. We have a solid waste facility that's got 20 acres. I don't know if you want EMS by solid waste, but I've got to kind of look at that and see if we can create enough separation. But I'm really liking the idea of approaching Chan out at Stone Ridge and trying to cut a deal with him.
Commissioner Jay Dudley here. As an ex-Sago Fire Commissioner, we have builders out there on the west end of our district that were offering to pay to build a building for us for fire protection while we were down there. So
Sure.
you might look to the builders and see if they're open to even putting some out there so you can have response time out there for EMS.
Yeah, I mean, everything's going to be on the table with respect to this, and like I said, because I think the priority has increased, or at least priority level has increased. That we'll be trying to fast track this as best as possible. And like I said, we've already got the design that we used for the facility in Kootenai Cutoff Road, and it'd be simple to replicate that.
Copy.
So we won't have that additional design time and all that, other than just land development time. Again, depending on what option, even if we do the lease option, what we'll do is we'll just tell the golf course that, hey, listen, here's our standard for a building, and they'll build it to that. So, because with it being an EMS facility, it has a little bit more complexity to the building safety types, and the ability to withstand different types of conditions. So there's it's a little bit more of an expensive building, unfortunately, but it's that way on purpose, because these are buildings that have to be able to still function regardless of what happens power outage wise and what have you.
Thank you, sir. All right, old business, COVID response update. I think that was on our last, I can't remember what we talked about then, but Alan Brinkmeyer, are you on the, are you in the meeting here? You want to talk about COVID response? Do you have anything to add to that? How we're doing with PPE, et cetera?
Alan's in. Oh, there you go.
Hi, can you hear me?
Oh,
Yeah.
All right.
So we're still trying to procure as much N95s as we can from our local providers, our local places that we order from, Henry Schein and some other places. We also have been working with Panhandle Health, and they got us a supply of some gloves when we were critically low, and got us some N95s when we we're running some low on some sizes of mediums. But otherwise, besides the price increase of N95s, they're available. We just have to find some when they drop down in prices so we don't spend too much. But otherwise, we're looking good on
Alan,
all of our other.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'd say, but otherwise, we look good on all of our surgical gowns, our Tyvek suits, face protection, eye shields, the face shields, and all that kind of stuff.
Have you been talking to Bob Howard? Because I know that the state FEMA had some availability for N5s as well. So N95s.
Yeah, that's where I went through with. I think that was with Panhandle Health, because I ordered through them and do a 1, 2, 3 survey, and I asked for some N95s and said I was critically low on the size mediums, and they sent me, I think, 2 or 3 boxes. So they still go out to the most critical areas first, and so far we're not at that critical level as some other agencies are.
Okay. Yeah, you might just touch base with Bob, because I know the state was sitting on some inventory, and we had talked about just basically buying up just to have it without buying too much of it. But you might just check with him and see what they've got for availability out of the state.
Okay, I'll do that today for sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Partner agencies, how are we doing?
We're doing just fine up at the lake.
Okay.
We've got supplies. We've got N95s.
Can I ask what proportion of the EMS providers have been vaccinated countywide?
That's,
You know.
that's our next item here.
Okay.
I'll get right to that. Gil was just filling us in on partner agencies and how they're set to handle COVID response.
Yeah,
You were
that's,
saying you were good.
yeah, we're in good shape right now. We have the masks, we have the N95s, we have gowns. So we're in good shape right now.
All right, thanks, Gil. Next point is COVID vaccination. So our agency, Priest Lake, actually all the partner transport agencies were vaccinated at the same time. Don't ask me what date that was, sometime around the end of January, or at least offered to be. December 28th, offered to be vaccinated. The clinic was put forward. Probably, I think we're estimating maybe 12 or so of our staff at BCMS got vaccinated. Fairly good number from Priest Lake turned out, as well as Schweitzer. And I don't believe anyone from Clark Ford came to that. I could be wrong, but I don't think we had any. Yeah,
I didn't see anybody.
so
Can we get your mic closer, Jeff?
I told you, Jesse.
You leaned back, dude.
How's that?
Thank you.
Okay. So I was saying about 10 to 12 of Bonner County EMS employees, and then a good turnout from Priest Lake and a good turnout from Schweitzer Fire for the vaccination clinic. And then since then, we've had several other employees go get vaccinated at the subsequent clinics they've had. And then we're up for our second dose next week. Still not sure exactly what day. I've gone back and forth with Panhandle, but they're supposed to send out a sign up and blah, blah, blah. And so I still haven't seen that yet, but we'll get our second dose next week. So anyway, that's the COVID vaccination update.
Anybody know who Ashley is?
She's from Priest Lake.
Ashley from Priest Lake.
Okay.
And for those who weren't aware, I sent out an email to all EMS providers, basically in support of vaccination. I think it's our ticket for us to get through this pandemic and to make our providers, more safe out in the field. So I'm a big supporter. This particular vaccine does not give you COVID, does not make you susceptible to give other people COVID. It's a very clean vaccine. The risk is pretty low. So I think it's the right thing to do. It's the right example to give to our community. So just coming out and support it once again. Thanks.
Thanks, Doc. So the next one is our Pulse Point update. And so that's kind of gone back and forth. So basically where we're at with this is Marcus and Dispatch have a way that they're willing to make this work. And Pulse Point is basically saying that we either do all or nothing. So we either let them come in and get all the information out of the dispatch center and know everything that's going on, or we can't do this. So basically they're wanting for me, if I open up my Pulse Point app, which all I care about is knowing when there's a cardiac arrest so I can go jump in and help if I'm Joe Public. But they're wanting us to see like all the calls that are being generated at the dispatch level for just every Joe Public to see this. And I'm like, that's not going to happen. So at this point, it's kind of a stalemate between Marcus at dispatch and the Pulse Point folks. And they were kind of going back and forth on email the other day. And I haven't followed up with Marcus to see what we've actually done. But it's the way that dispatch is wanting to do it makes sense, and that is assign Pulse Point as a responder like you would Life Flight or Priest Lake. So once they assign it, then it goes out to the app, and Pulse Point's like, no, we want all this information. And so
Have you talked to Scott, our attorney, on this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I've talked to both of him and Marcus, and they both say the same thing, like, hey, we've come up with an option that'll work. And
Correct.
so in a meeting last week or whenever that was, Doc, whenever we had a meeting with the Pulse Point folks, basically the guy was trying to tell us, no, that's not good enough. We want our public, because they get bored if the app doesn't go off all the time. So we wanted to be able to see all the calls going on. We said, no, that's not what we signed up for. We signed up to get the cardiac arrest that's nearby me, gives me the AED location, and I can go and do CPR. And
We actually don't.
And just to
public.
be clear,
No,
the-
no.
yeah, just to be clear, the medical director, myself, Jeff Lindsay, the clinical team, and Marcus all believe that we really don't need all these other pieces of information streaming to Pulse Point all the time. We really just want CPR needed on our app, and I don't quite understand why they're being so how should we say, pig-headed about that. And I guess the question is, there's somebody higher up in that administration that we can talk to force the issue and get them to make a decision.
Yeah, so I think that's our next move is my follow-up with Marcus after the emails the other day. He seemed to indicate that EMS was ready for this. I indicated we were ready. So now it's going to be probably them going back and forth until we can find, because their whole thing of, well, we want our public to know if there's a wildfire in the area. Well, that's not what we signed up for. We don't.
Right. Yeah, this may be, we run into this with other instances, like we were trying to take information to the cloud, and we had a storage company that wanted all of our data, and then we found out that they would retain the data and use it and sell it. So we put an end to that. So I think this might be a conversation that we might want to have at a little bit higher level. I think Dr. Jenkins is correct. I think we might want to move up that ladder and then maybe get myself involved, and get Scott directly involved to renegotiate this issue, because a lot of times this is just a company policy issue,
Right.
and there is flexibility, just not flexibility with the person you're dealing with at that level.
Correct. That's what it sounds like. So, yep, sounds like we'll escalate it up the next level. And then the next point here, Commissioner, if you want to talk about I got new station 1 update. If you want to talk about that.
Yeah, so we're going out to an engineer for design. We went through a couple of options. One was just to build just the station 1 and then add on the rest of the administrative building space that we needed to add. We decided as the commissioners that we wanted to move forward with basically getting the whole enchilada at once. And so we're gonna go after funding from PAC, who we've used before. Our administrative building is technically owned by them. They're the one that floated the loan for the county. And I think we're in a good position to get this thing rolling up quickly. Design wise, we're pretty much there. We had a preliminary design put together by an architect. Originally, it was just a line drawing. Then we've had our in-house engineers kind of going through it and putting finer points on it. So I think we're fairly close. We've looked at permitting. But the plan is going to be to build that structure in the current parking lot next to the building that exists, the old Livewire Church building, and then we'll demo that building once we're done with the construction. But it'll still be similar layout, where we'll have entry off a division for EMS and exit off of Ontario. And then it's just a matter of making sure we can create the kind of parking space the city of Sandpoint is going to want. But I think we've got that covered. So
Can I ask what else is going to be housed in there just besides EMS?
so one of the other projects that has been one of my big projects is one, to get out of station 1, because one, we don't really own it, and it's a rat trap and it's not that functional. The buildings, the rooms for the EMS folks, the one closest to the main building, you could cook meat in. The one furthest away, you could hang meat in. So it's really not a pleasant place to be. Let alone the fact that we're a big fan of the pull-throughs, because for some reason we get some drivers that can't seem to backhand without hitting something. So this would resolve that. The other space is going to be to also move DMV, because state statute says that it's got to be in the county seat, which is Sandpoint. And right now we've got it in rented space in Ponderay. Between the two rents, we're well over $10,000 or $12,000 a month we're laying out for those. And that's one of the other drivers that we would have something we own. That same money we pay every month would just go to the payment on the note And then we would have the facilities we need, because right now we're crammed. But to move DMV over, we put them on the first floor. We'd probably move Road and Bridge and some of the other offices across the street, and just give us a little more breathing room, because right now we're pretty much jammed into that building as best we can. So
This is Jesse Webster. Just a point of clarification, because I know there's public watching probably on YouTube. The commissioners haven't officially made a decision about financing yet. That hasn't been discussed.
Right.
PAC was just a potential. And then the other thing that was discussed was having a committee to discuss the moving of departments around and who was going to go where.
but we did decide on the direction, and the direction was to go ahead and go for the whole thing at once, as opposed
Yeah.
to trying to phase it.
Okay. All right, if anybody's got anything else, we can go ahead and,
Can I just,
yeah, go ahead, Doc.
so with the pulse point, if we can come to an agreement and they will allow us to get CPR only, or something that is acceptable to all of us, then that's great. And in that, there was the initial, I forgot exactly, but probably $10,000 fee to get started, and I believe $8,000 for the first year of maintenance and that sort of thing. I believe there's still another $5,000 left in the grant that's not been spent, which I believe we can go ahead and spend on AEDs for the county, and so that's something to work on. And if we can't come to an agreement on getting Pulse Point started, then I think we have to decide, can we go ahead and just spend all that money on AEDs in the county and spread them around? Would that violate our terms of this grant, or would this be something that would be an acceptable alternative? And I'm curious about Commissioner's view on that.
Yeah, we'll have to look into the language of the grant, because I don't recall off the top of my head what it was, but the clerks usually administrate those grants, and they keep an eye on deadlines and that type of thing. So I'll Jeff, make a note to send me a reminder to meet with our clerk and discuss that grant and what kind of limitations we might have.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to see this program get off the ground.
All right, we will adjourn at 10:27.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks everyone for your participation.
Thank you. Bye-bye.